Your dealer will charge you $2,500 to replace 2 control arms on your Ram. A good independent shop will do the same job with better parts for $816. But that is not even the worst markup in this video. These are the 10 Ram suspension secrets they are counting on you to never hear. Number 1. The AIR suspension is designed to eat itself alive. The first thing you need to understand about Ram's air suspension is that the dealer already knows it is going to fail. They just will not tell you why. Ram fills that system with pure nitrogen at the factory because nitrogen does not carry moisture. But the second any airbag develops even a pinhole leak, the compressor pulls in regular outside air to make up the pressure. In winter, that means wet, salty air getting sucked in, and that moisture goes right past the tiny factory air dryer and pools inside the compressor and the valve block. Below about 28 degrees, it freezes. The compressor burns itself out trying to push through solid ice. I have seen these things cook compressors at 60,000 miles, at 70,000, and sometimes as early as 50,000 miles. There is no service interval in your owner's manual for the air dryer, but there should be. Ram will happily sell you a new compressor for $3,000 when all it really needed was a $40 dryer and a nitrogen top-off. But what really gets me is the fix, which is cheaper than the repair. Number 2. Rip it out and replace it with coils. If your dealer has already quoted you to fix the air suspension, throw that quote in the garbage. I am not joking. The cheapest actual fix for a failing Ram air suspension is to get rid of it. Companies like Strutmasters, Arnott, and Air Delete make bolt-in coil conversion kits that run between $600 and $1,600, depending on whether you want a full kit with shocks. Monroe Quick Struts will do it for about $575. A guy in Saskatchewan told me he did his whole Rebel for about $1,000 with a set of Bilstein 5100 shocks and Tough Truck rear coils. But the dealer will never mention this because here is the secret inside the secret. If you just rip out the compressor in the bags, your dash throws a permanent warning light. The conversion kits include a bypass module, or you can spend $150 on an Alpha OBD cable and disable the whole system yourself in about 10 minutes. I have done this on a 2016 Laramie at 180,000 miles. The truck rides better than it ever did from the factory, but that is just the $1,500. If you drive a heavy-duty Ram, your suspension problem is completely different, and it is much scarier. Number 3. The death wobble recall is a joke. Death wobble is what happens when the solid front axle on a heavy-duty Ram starts shaking back and forth so hard at highway speed that you cannot steer. Your hands come off the wheel. Ram has known about it for decades. In 2019, they recalled almost 800,000 heavy-duty trucks because the drag link jam nut could separate entirely. Their fix, and I want you to hear this clearly, was to weld the jam nut to the adjuster sleeve. They welded it, which means every alignment shop on the planet now cannot adjust your front end without cutting the factory fix apart first. They had to change the recall in 2023 because alignment shops were losing their minds. And as of right now, there is still no death wobble recall for the 5th generation heavy duties built from 2019 onward. The class action from the earlier trucks paid affected California owners about $200 each and left everyone else with nothing. My take is simple. If you own a heavy-duty Ram, you need a forged aftermarket track bar from Thurin or Carly, a proper steering damper, and a steering box brace. The dealer will keep selling you new dampers at $250 a pop until you cave and do it properly. But the worst markup in the video is not on a heavy-duty truck. It is on the 1500, and it is the number I opened the video with. Number 4. The control arm bushing shell game. The front lower control arm on the 4th generation Ram 1500 is a forged aluminum piece. The rear bushing inside it is fluid-filled, very fancy, until it fails. Once that fluid leaks out, your truck squeaks on every turn, clunks over every speed bump, and creaks every time you put weight in the cab. It usually fails between 80,000 and 120,000 miles. The scam is that Ram sells the whole aluminum control arm for about $600 per side. The bushing by itself is a nightmare to press out. The arm is designed with a slot on the inside that fights you the whole way, so dealers just sell you the complete arm. That $2,500 quote I opened the video with, that is where it comes from. I had a customer walk in last year with that exact number on dealer letterhead. I sent him across town to an independent who did the same job with Mivotec control arms for $816 total, alignment included. He saved almost $1,700 on the exact same repair. Mivotec and AC Delco make these things. But the second Mopar stamps their logo on the part, it somehow turns into a precious metal. My advice is to stay out of the dealer for control arms specifically. The aftermarket parts are identical. Sometimes it is literally the same casting with a different sticker. But if you put a leveling kit on your Ram 1500, things get worse in a hurry. Number 5. Leveling kits are killing ball joints at 39,000 miles. I will say this as plainly as I can. Your leveling kit is destroying your ball joints. The factory upper control arm on the Ram 1500 is a stamped steel piece. When the suspension drops down all the way, the arm itself runs out of room, not the strut. That means when a shop puts your truck on a frame hoist, or when you install a 2-inch spacer kit, the ball joint literally gets yanked out of the arm. I have seen this at 39,000 miles on a 2020 Ram 1500 with a factory Rocky Ridge puck kit. I also saw it at 45,000 miles on a leveled 2021. These are not high mileage trucks. The dealer will tell you the upper control arm cannot be fixed, only replaced, and they will charge you $800 to $1,200 per side. What the dealer will not tell you is that Moog already makes a slider ball joint built to fix this exact problem. They call it the problem solver. Moog is basically admitting what Ram will not. If you are leveled or lifted, skip the factory arms entirely. Ready Lift and Mivotec both make tubular upper control arms with corrected geometry for about $600 a pair. Your ball joints will outlive the truck. But the dumbest thing I have ever seen Stellantis put in writing is about their own assembly line. Number 6. Ram cannot torque its own sway bar bolts. There is a real technical service bulletin on the 5th generation Ram 1500, numbered 2304718. It says the sway bar end links were not torqued properly at the factory. There is a separate bulletin on the left front strut, same problem. That is not a design issue. That is Stellantis' own assembly plant in Sterling Heights, Michigan, failing to tighten bolts on trucks that people paid $60,000 for. Symptoms start with a clunk at the front end, usually showing up between 1,000 to 9,000 miles. The dealer will retorque it under warranty, and then it will probably come back because the factory end link is undersized. Moog makes a fantastic replacement set for about $50 a pair. Do yourself a favor and skip the Mivotec end links on this application. I have pulled Mivotecs off 5th generation trucks that snapped completely in half in under 3 years. For the front sway bar on a Ram 1500, it is Moog or nothing. If you feel a clunk under 15,000 miles, that is still on Ram. Make them fix it under warranty before you let them wriggle out. Look, I know this is a lot of grim information in one video. If any of this is saving you money, hit that subscribe button so you do not miss the next one. But for the Power Wagon folks in the audience, I have got something special. Number 7. The Power Wagon Smart Bar is a $1,500 ransom. The Power Wagon has that electronic front sway bar disconnect. Hit the button, The bar splits in half, and the front wheels can flex more when you are off-road. Great feature when it works. When it fails, and it will fail, Ram sells you exactly one part, the entire sway bar assembly. About $1,500 installed at the dealer for what is almost always one rusted little pin inside the motor. There is a class action lawsuit over this exact issue. The people suing them say Ram engineered the unit, so none of it can be serviced on its own, and I would not argue with them. Here is what I do in the shop. Pull the actuator harness, clean every pin with a brass brush, flood it with dielectric grease, and seal it up. That buys most trucks another 3 to 5 years. For a permanent fix, a company called Able Components makes a bypass system that replaces the factory electronics entirely with physical switches. If your Power Wagon ever gets stuck in the disconnect splines, which happens, do not let the dealer sell you a new motor. Rock the truck forward and back in low range with the wheels cranked over. It is literally in the owner's manual. Most dealers do not know this, but I am about to pick a fight some of you are going to hate. So let us talk about ball joints. Number 8. Moog is no longer the right call on a Ram. For a long time, Moog was the gold standard for suspension parts. On modern Rams, I will not put them back in. I watch them fail. Right now in my shop, a plow truck came through last winter with a set of Moog upper ball joints that failed at about 40,000 miles. The customer told me he had done the same job 3 times on the same truck. On heavy-duty Rams, the real pro shops have switched to 2 brands. Dynatrac Pro Steer costs about $650 for a full set, and Carli costs around $800 with a lifetime warranty. Both are rebuildable in the vehicle, which means when they eventually wear out, you do not press anything in or out of the knuckle. You pull a snap ring, drop in new internals, and you are done. The dealer quote on a heavy-duty Ram ball joint job right now is running around $2,200 installed. I have seen a local mechanic do the same job for $275 when the customer brought in their own joints. That is 90% cheaper. I know some of you in the comments will tell me Moog is still great. Respectfully, I disagree, and my lift tells me I am right. But the next one hits the heavy-duty trucks and a surprising number of 1,500 owners the same way. Number 9, the rear coil isolator Ram already fixed on one truck. The rear coils on the heavy-duty Rams sit in a lower bucket with a short metal cone that holds the spring in place. Carli actually wrote a whole piece on this. The cone only grips about a quarter turn of the spring, so after any real flex off-road or sometimes just after a tire rotation where the jack drops the axle, the spring can pop loose from the rubber pad on top and not sit back down right. You get a loud clunk over every bump after that. The same isolator part number fits the 1500 Classic from 2019 through 2024. Here is the annoying part. Ram quietly fixed this design on the Power Wagon by adding an extra inner lip to the isolator. They did not put it on the base 2500 or 3500 or on the 1500. I have no idea why. You pick the theory. Mopar wants $30 to $40 per isolator. Amazon has the identical part for $12 to $25 a pair. If your rear coils are clunking and your truck is over 80,000 miles, just replace the isolators first. Do not let a dealer sell you new springs. But the last one on this list is the reason every other secret on this list exists. Number 10. Stellantis already admitted the whole thing. 2024 was one of the ugliest years I have ever seen an American truck company have. Ram sales dropped 19% for the year. Their own CEO, Carlos Tavares, got fired in December because he was picking fights with his own dealer network. The J.D. Power quality rankings came out, and Ram had dropped from number 1 all the way to number 25 out of 32 brands in 1 year. The new CEO, Antonio Filosa, has hired 2,000 new engineers to fix the mess. Their North American chief told a reporter, and I am paraphrasing, "When you make those kinds of cuts, you cannot expect the same quality." They said the quiet part out loud. And this is exactly why every secret I just walked you through exists. It is the failing air compressor, the busted ball joints, and the sway bar bolts nobody bothered to tighten at the factory. This was not bad luck. This was a decade of penny pinching that is now sitting under your truck. The good news is they are fixing it. The bad news is your Ram was built before the fix. Until then, trust the aftermarket over the dealer, and trust a good independent mechanic over a dealer every single time. Drop me a comment and tell me which one of these you have already dealt with. I want to know which dealer gave you the worst quote. And if your Ram has a turbo on it, or you are shopping one, I have a video on screen about 7 stupid habits that are killing Ram turbos right now. Things most owners have no idea they are doing. It is the one the Cummins crowd keeps sharing with me, and if you do not want a $10,000 turbo bill in your future, you need to watch it next.